You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network. Well, that sure was a dark tower. I saw that tower and I was like, man, that tower's kind of dark.
Weren't there supposed to be two of them?
No.
Oh.
Although it's fun if you go back and you look at like old comments when the Two Towers first came out, where people were like, it was really tasteless for them to release this movie with that title after 9/11. You're like, oh my God.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, a lot.
People were convinced they were going to change the title.
Yeah, people are.
Don't y'all remember 9/11? I do.
America. And part of this takes place in America. And the other part takes place in, I don't know. Midworld, Shadow of America. You know, the whole Dark Tower thing kind of reminds me of, I don't know if anybody ever read Roger Zelazny's Chronicles of Amber, where it was like, there's one true world, and everything else is like a shadow of the true world, like and differing reflections. And not having read these books, I'm watching this going, is that what's happening here? Is that what we're seeing?
I don't understand that reference,
There's
but yes.
multiple universes in the Stephen King world, I guess.
Yeah.
We're trying to save book comparisons until the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell you what's really going on without getting into the
Very
books.
true. So we'll just talk about the movie and first introduce it because there's a lot of us here because everybody's like, maybe it'll be good. First we got...
Sarah.
Patience.
JC.
Scott. George.
And I, of course, am Corey Coleman. Anyway.
I was sitting next to him and some of his friends, and they were wasted.
Oh,
They were
call.
double
They were
toasted.
wasted, and they were laughing the whole time.
This is, of course, the first adaptation in a planned series of first a movie,
Never gonna happen.
Then a TV show season, and then another movie, and then a TV show season. Very ambitious idea of Stephen King's. How many books are there in the whole season? Seven books.
No, actually
Eight books.
Yeah.
Isn't
And
it
comic
technically
books
every
and-
single Stephen King
They're
book?
all in the
They're
same
all
world.
connected.
But 7 in the main series, and then you've got 8 that's kind of wedged in there now.
And then
that
some
you wrote
short
after the
stories
fact.
here and
And then you
there.
got short stories, you got comic books. Yeah.
So they're trying to like find a way to sell these as like a continuing story. And so this is not the adaptation of The Gunslinger, the first book that came out in the series.
Not at all.
This is, I guess, sort of a mishmash of things. And what we have here is a little kid, Jake Chambers, who is having dreams of a dark world and of Matthew McConaughey not taking his shirt off. That is a dark world.
That's a horrible nightmare.
Is this the only Matthew McConaughey film he didn't take his shirt off?
It seems like he's still, or he's never really gotten like the muscular body he had before the
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, and it seems like he hasn't really gotten that body ever since.
He's very thin in this.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
kind of like 97% leaner chicken
And-
meat.
Yeah.
And he has an odd build because when he's that thin, he's got a huge head.
He does.
And his
Plus the weird
cheekbones.
shoulder pads didn't help very much.
Well, you know, they kind of work for him, though, I thought. But anyway, so he's like, right off the bat, you can tell from these dreams, okay, he's bad, okay? And he's taking kids and putting them in some sort of contraption that makes a laser beam shoot out of his building and
Wait,
hit
is that
this
evil?
big tower.
Are we not supposed to be doing that?
What? No, you're not supposed to be doing that. Important rule. But
I gotta go take care of
important safety tip, Egon, thanks.
How many kids do you have?
Never mind. Magic. I'm a sorcerer.
Ignore me!
Oh my god, I wanted him to say that at some point.
When the kid wakes up, right after seeing in his dream this beam of kid power hitting this tower, there's an earthquake going on. It turns out earthquakes have been going on pretty regularly. And he's like, kind of a disturbed kid. That you find out his dad was a firefighter who had died, and ever since then he hasn't been quite right. And he's saying, well, it's because I keep having these super realistic dreams that I'm drawing pictures from. And then he starts seeing another guy, Idris Elba, which is also not the world's worst thing to see
I
in a
started
dream.
seing him too.
I know. You tell me all about it today. before the
I was
movie.
wearing sunglasses and then I lowered them to look at.
Just Idris Elba being the gunslinger. So what all this leads up to, without getting into getting overblown with the details here, is that yes, there is another world and there is a fight for the existence of all worlds going on. Matthew McConaughey is Walter, the man in black, the bad guy that has a army of rodent people or dog people that wear human skins and work for them on multiple
Why?
worlds, and they need to find kids to use their brain power because some prophecy says the Dark Tower, which, despite sounding evil, is apparently the thing that protects all the universes.
But can we say what their brain power actually is?
Yeah, I mean, at this point.
Because it's Stephen King. It's The Shine.
It is The Shine.
Twinkle.
Yeah, so Kids with The Shine is coming to our planet to find kids.
Couldn't even
with
get
the
Jeffrey
Shine.
Rush for a cameo.
I know. Nice. Way back, call back. That was nice. And so it turns into a chase thing with Matthew McConaughey wants to get the kid. The kid manages to go to the other world and team up with Idris Elba. Idris Elba realizes he needs to protect this kid, but he's more concerned with vengeance against the man in black for killing his father, who's the guy from the insurance commercials.
Yes.
And the president of the United States on 24. And, I guess part of my problem here is that this movie, which is a collection of tropes we've seen played through in any number of, like, child as a hero's journey type stories, is so stylish lacking.
Yeah.
Like, I was really surprised the degree in which it just felt like there was no... I don't know, what's the word? Energy to it?
There was no
that's a
flavor.
really- yeah.
I feel like there were shots missing. That like there were close-ups missing. There were long shots missing. There was something missing that would add style to it. I mean, we have Idris Elba, who's the gunslinger, but there was nothing cool about the gunfights.
Yeah.
Right.
It was very.
It was like you could
very
see
Matrix-y.
you could see how on paper some of the things they were trying to do could have been cool, but the director seemed uninterested in giving us that sense of cool.
They
wonder.
Right away,
cool
one of the
20
red
years ago.
flags, and I can't remember which. I think it was a YA book series adapted into a movie. I think it was The Host, where it turned out to not be a very good movie. And right away, there was like 3 or 4 books, and they were just going to mishmash them all into one movie. Right away, that's a big red flag. They're doing that for this movie. They came out weeks ago, said, it's going to be about 90 minutes. With all this source material, they're going to give us a 90-minute movie. It's another red flag.
Well, because once again, one of the things we came out saying, wow, doesn't this feel a lot like a YA adaptation?
Yeah.
And it's partially, you got, like I said, a kid main character, and B, that thing, the whole movie is just the lead up to more. You know, it's like, you're like, okay, and we more know that ahead of time, of course.
But it's not lived animal of anything because without giving away what happens at the end, everything's pretty much resolved. Everything is done. Like, there's that story. 7 books in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're done.
And it's probably because, I mean, midway through, the studio either might have recognized, hey, there's not as much here as we thought there was going to be, or this isn't there's no way we can make this what we wanted it to be, and so they sort of, cut bait halfway through, and this is the best they could give us. I don't know.
There was that point. Right
Starting to think I'm the only person who kind of liked this.
I kind of liked it too. I kind of watched it as a extended pilot for a TV series. Maybe cut out the last 15-20 minutes and leave it at more of a cliffhanger.
But both of you guys read the books, right?
Yeah.
I read the
them.
first book, and honestly, I've read it twice. I can't remember a single thing that happened except for the very, very end.
The first book is awfully hard to get through.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Skip it. Start with the second book. The second book's great.
I'm reading The Stand right now, and I can't put it down.
Wait till you get to the ending.
You'll wish you had.
Okay, just tell me when to put it down, and I'll put it down. I'll throw it in a fire.
I mean, Stephen King's never been particularly famous for great endings.
Fire.
Which isn't to say he hasn't had a few things that did end really well.
Yeah.
But overall, he's gotten a lot of flack over the years for not really knowing how to finish something. Famously with The Mist, he just didn't.
Because nobody knows how to edit him, because nobody has the balls to tell him no.
Maybe. I don't even know what the reason
Actually,
is.
his son's been doing a lot better with that these days. I think Joe Hill has been doing a lot of his endings for him.
Yeah, it could be.
Here,
It could
Dad, let
well
me
be.
finish this for
Yeah.
you. Dad, put down your glasses.
But yeah, this whole thing, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was just so utterly bland. I just was going
I
through the
think bland
motions.
is the perfect adjective for this movie.
It was like a 95-minute cutscene from a video game with a couple of voices you recognize and a bunch of people you have no idea who they are. Like, oh, and there's Jackie Earle Haley.
And an endless amount of Easter eggs of things that were like, oh, look, there's a reference to this Stephen King book, and there's a reference to that Stephen King book, which I don't know
and
the
Stephen
degree
King
to
movie,
which.
too.
And Stephen King movie. I don't know the degree to which they did that in the original books. And certainly that's
There's
something that's
allusions to certain books.
like almost every Stephen King book has at least one thing that
It gets
ties
much
it to
heavier
another.
further on in the
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
It becomes
too.
pretty, like, I don't say it's apparent, but they make it very clear the Man in Black is Randall Flagg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then here's Walter, and who cares? And
Yeah.
doing some sort of weird David Copperfield impression when he's like this every time he enters the room and talking with whatever the hell that voice was.
He did make the Statue of Liberty disappear.
I was like,
He's very not clear on the plural of magic.
Oh, he's like a bad, like, Wiccan shop guy. He's like, it's pronounced magics,
it's
and
with
there's a K.
and another one of those movies, I just asked the question myself. So you've got two guys with very famous for their beautiful way of speaking, their accents, and you tell both of them, no, don't do that. And there's no real reason for them not to do that
Yeah,
here.
the gunslinger could have been British.
Yeah, or
No,
whatever
it makes
passes
sense.
for
It
in that
actually
world.
makes
Baltimore
sense.
accent.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
It doesn't make sense from the Sergio Leone, he was supposed to be based off of Clint Eastwood, that gunslinger, but it doesn't make sense from the, descended from King Arthur,
Oh, yeah, that just drove me crazy. This sort of went off. Oh, and by the way, the guns are
there are
Fortune
so
I think I called it Excalibur.
There's so many throwaway expository lines that are just like studio note, studio note, studio note. Like explain descendant of Arthur Eld. Like anyone who's read the book can figure that out. Oh, they actually mean King Arthur. That's weird.
Right.
It's like studio note. What do you mean Arthur Eld?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and it's almost like King Arthur, as if I kind of feel like that's a big enough point you would want to spend more time on that. Like that would be more pertinent.
That's what the sequel's for.
or prequels, as the case
boy.
may be.
Or television
And there was a big
series.
thing made, and this is borderline spoiler territory for the books. In the end of the 7th book, he had, without getting to what happens, because I don't want to, because it upsets me still thinking about it. He gets the horn, and the whole thing is he goes, you've read the 7th book.
Yes.
He gets the horn, and they're making a big point about the movie. He has the horn. There was no horn. There was no mention of the horns. I'm thinking that was all just scuttled it out and said, nope, we're done with that. At the end of the 7th book, Stephen King writes a paragraph right before the end and goes, okay, we're at the end. Put the book down. Stop reading right now because seriously, I'm about to fuck it all up. And he does.
Wow.
I disagree. I love the ending.
No, he even said it. I don't. It's the end of the. No.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Isn't he a character in the last book?
He's
sort
such
of?
a character.
He's such a character. That's
He
Steven.
does write himself in, and it's bizarre. And yeah,
He's going to
really enjoy him being in the books.
Wait a second. There wasn't a
Yeah.
single character from Maine who was an alcoholic writer in this. It's not Stephen King.
It's just there's so much here that just felt kind of wasted to me. Like I said, Matthew McConaughey, who I thought is fine, but he's not playing a Matthew McConaughey role.
When I heard his casting, I thought he was perfect casting, and he just doesn't land it. Like,
Well, anybody who's been like a fan of the Man in Black, let's say, or Randall Flagg, I mean, everyone I know that's a Stephen King fan for the last 10 years has been wanting Matthew McConaughey to play this part, and it was just so bland, like Chris says,
he's got this like sleazy allure to him, which is what you need. Like you need to be seduced by him, and instead just like, magic.
Magics.
Stop breathing.
as not great as the Stan TV series was, the guy who played Randall Flagg, and I'm forgetting the name right now.
Jamie Sheridan.
Jamie Sheridan. He did a really good job. It was like he has that kind of slimy but kind of charming, and that's what I thought. This was again some weird effeminate magician who was standing like this the whole time.
I kind of wanted to just see. There was a point. I was like, well, if you weren't going to have Matthew McConaughey do Matthew McConaughey, why didn't you get Walton Goggins, who does it even better?
that would have been awesome.
It would have
would've
made
been
a
good.
great
Holy crap.
Walter here. But and maybe, like I said, assuming this makes as much money as they want it to, which is a big assumption to make right now, because this is not getting the world's best reviews across the board.
But you get
And they could very well recast and go, well, like this is, like you said, a world of parallel worlds.
No, he's a sorcerer. He takes on different faces.
Yeah,
They
he takes on
can
different
totally
faces.
recast, and it would make sense.
But there's also...
And I don't know if you stuck around for the credits.
I did not stick
not,
past the credits. We missed something pertinent.
miss it?
I'll
Easter
just
egg?
say there was some whistling at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did he turn
That was
into
it.
Johnny Depp?
No, there wasn't an extra scene. There was just some whistling.
Okay.
So it's like a little soundtrack.
Yeah.
Of course, because we know, yes. There's also, other character actors in here that I'm like, wait, seriously, that's all you're doing with him? Like Fran Kranz, who most people remember as the stoner guy from Cabin in the Woods, but is a really funny comedic actor, and they do nothing with him. There's no reason for him even to be in this role.
I have a question. Why was he the only person in that world wearing like a regular plaid shirt and a t-shirt?
Well,
was
they're supposed to be from different
Keystone
times.
Earth?
Yeah, maybe.
So.
But none of that was explained. Are we going to get that later? Did,
Jackie Earle Haley, who it seemed like his only stage direction is don't act like Jackie Earle Haley once again. You're just like, okay, he could have been anybody.
He was supposed to be like this super like badass like vampire.
Yeah, and then you don't see any of
This king of vampires, basically.
Yeah. I didn't get that at
the
all.
Crimson Pig is filled with vampires.
Yeah.
And like,
It did not get that.
really strong,
So the dog people are like werewolves or something then? Who are wearing humans?
They're just dog people.
See, that's the thing, is they gave us weird amount of like off-the-cuff detail on things where it felt awkward, and then not detail
exposition
where we
you don't
it.
need, and exposition you do need is kind of left off.
Yeah, I wish the world building had been a bit better, and maybe if the style had been flashier and they had given us more of this world, maybe made it 20 minutes longer just so we can see more of this, it would have been a better film. I mean, I really did not hate it. I was actually kind of enjoying it, but I really wanted more. I was like, give me something.
It's one of those things you're like, I would have enjoyed this a lot more if I hadn't had to come out to a theater to see it.
I feel like if I was sitting on my couch watching it as like a TBS movie or something like that, and even the special effects were kind of on that level too, I would have been like, this is really enjoyable.
And, once again, as Patience kept saying, this felt more like the pilot to a TV show than it did to a movie in and of itself. And as they've said, they wanted, they've signed Idris Elba and the kid who played Jake to come back and be in at least the first season of the TV show, which they're saying apparently is based more on Wizard and Glass.
Which is a prequel.
Which wouldn't make sense for Jake to be in that.
Yeah,
That's true.
or Elba, for that matter, because apparently he's so much younger. in that one.
Yeah,
But
it's him, Jake's age.
Right. So I don't know. Who
I think
knows?
lots of flashbacks will be happening.
Yeah, I don't think if they do that, then obviously first season can't be Wizard and Glass. And I think first season would probably be more drawing of the three with elements of Gunslinger, because there's like almost none of Gunslinger in here at all.
Did anyone even...
Except for the first line they kept repeating over and over again.
Yeah.
Did anyone even notice the soundtrack? It says it's by Junkie XL, but I don't remember one bit of it.
There were some scenes where there was no music, and there really should have been.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a stylistic choice of, oh, it's going to be quiet and there's action. It was like, come on, there's no sound except for, random noises around.
Of the Foley or what have you.
Right.
The only thing, I'd love watching Idris Elba do whatever. I think he's great. And once again, he's in a movie that doesn't live up to what we know he's capable of. I mean, I did enjoy to some degree the whole look how many cool ways he can reload his gun, but we already saw that in movies like Wanted. We're like, okay, this is once again another thing you took from another movie and you mishmashed it all together. This is as much a mishmash of other not Stephen King movies as it is of Stephen King's Dark Tower.
But that's
films.
the Dark Tower series. Yeah. It is working its way through so many different genre elements and so many things that influence Stephen King. It's just like his version of that, and he is mashing them all together. And that's what's good about the novels. And each one kind of starts, moving to different genres to a certain extent.
So there's a romantic comedy one?
What?
Is there a romantic comedy one?
Tiny bit, yeah.
There's also a scat porn one.
Oh, wow.
That's the best one in my opinion.
All right, well, let's go to final thoughts. And Patience, why don't you start us out?
Well, my heart hurts right now. I'm a little sad. I'm tearing up. Not really. But I didn't really have high expectations for the movie, but I really wanted it to be better than it was. I agree with Chris when you say that it was just bland. I feel like they relied too heavily on the star power of Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, and then they just didn't give them the script or that they needed to in order to be successful in this film. And I liked the Easter eggs. That was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of cool. And if you are a Stephen King fan, watch it at least for the Easter eggs and then drink afterwards. So I'm gonna give it like 5.5 evil demon monsters coming through a red dimension out of 10.
I almost forgot about those guys.
I know, right? Oh, my God. JC?
Coming in, I mean, the only expectation I had was people who are really into the books were really expecting the worst ever since the project was announced, because they've been wanting it for so long. And then when the first trailers came out, they said, a lot of people said, that's not the Dark Tower to me.
Oh.
But, despite all of that, I came in this with an open mind. I obviously was expecting more, but then I saw those red flags that I mentioned where, there's so much source material, and they came out saying it's going to be a 90-minute movie. It didn't seem like, to me, that spells out to me midway through production, they sort of realized what they had wasn't as good as they thought it was going to be, and so they sort of kind of gave up halfway through. I don't know. It's probably not exactly true, but that's sort of how, when these things happen the way they do, read to me. But, if it weren't called The Dark Tower, if it were an original story just similar to that, this might be a good movie, because, everything Idris Elba was doing was pretty good. I like Matthew McConaughey. He was really good in this. The few moments where he's doing cool stuff in the gunfights towards the end, there was more of that. This would be more enjoyable. But, bland kind of seems to be the word of the night, and that's sort of where I was with this. I would give it 5 out of 10 Brooklyn stereotype kids.
Scott?
Yeah, Heart Hurting is good, because it was growing up, read all the books growing up as they came out over however many years. I loved The Gunslinger, even though it wasn't great. I liked all the books that came up. Even the ending of The Dark Tower, the final book, I really enjoyed it. And it is a weird ending. I'm not crazy about it, but I still would say I liked it. So I kind of went with the weight of expectation, but at the same time, people make adaptations to what they're going to be. Even with that, they just took thousands of pages and just ground them up into the barest essence of the most generic version of a really good story, interesting, and just made it super uninteresting, and that was really sad. The only time it came into life was the last 20 minutes where they're in New York, and it was the last action hero all over again. And,
yeah.
But that was actually some genuinely funny moments, and I really liked that. I don't know if they were going for laughs, but I certainly laughed when he drank a Coke.
Yeah.
or sugar, because they couldn't apparently have
Yeah. His hand was
very strategically
hand.
closing it. So I just was very disappointed, and I hope they decide not to go any further, because they pretty much open it and shut the story, and that's very sad. So I would give this 7 failed Stephen King endings.
Sir?
I liked this. I feel like I could watch it again and enjoy it. Maybe pay a bit more attention to the Easter eggs. I caught some of them, but Chris has the Wikipedia page up right now, and it kind of listed some of the Easter eggs. And I was like, oh, I missed that one. I feel like they underutilized a lot of the actors in this, like we talked about. I don't think Idris Elba did as good a job as he could have. I think some of the stuff that I've seen him in has not been very good, except for Luther. I think he is a fucking amazing actor in that, and I wish it had been a little bit more...
And The Wire.
I'm not very far in The Wire.
Oh, fair enough.
But,
there's no good way to tell people you haven't seen The Wire.
I haven't seen The Wire.
I feel like they gave him a script, and he read the script, and he did it, and there was, the director didn't give him enough direction, or they didn't let him emote and smolder and do and brood.
It definitely needed more Elba brooding and
yes,
smolder.
and there needed to be so much more of that. And there was little moments, but this isn't a spoiler, but his early on in the movie, they show his dad getting killed, and he's just kind of like, Dad's dead. Oh, revenge. But I mean, I'm disappointed in that sense. I think we didn't really talk about the kid. Whatever his name is. Jake, well, the actor, whatever his name is.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think he did a pretty good job. We're talking about some of the jokes. A lot of them relied heavily on him, and I think he did a fairly good job. He's supposed to be 11.
Yeah.
11 going on 18.
A little old for 11, yeah.
But I'm interested to see if they make more of this. I'll definitely follow the series. This is a type of genre I really love, so I'm a sucker for it. I'm going to give it 6 missed opportunities to have Idris Elba naked.
I knew that
Or at
was
least
going to be your
a
thing.
shirtless Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. George?
So first off, Scott, you give this a 7 out of 10? Like, it seemed like you hated it.
Yeah.
No, I just gave 7 failed endings, not out of 10, just 7
7.
failed endings. There's no...
Out of
Out of infinite endings.
I want to make sure I understand how the scale
Okay,
works. So
7
7 means you
amusement
actually
parks.
liked it.
There's 56 Stephen King books,
the scale is arbitrary anyway.
so 7 failed endings out
So
of
7 out of 100.
Pretty much.
Okay, see, that's
As
different.
many parallel universes there are
Alright.
in this mid-world, there's 7 failed endings.
Fair enough.
Okay. I actually enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. Had I not read the books, I probably would have liked it a little bit more. As it is, I like to think of it as its own thing as much as possible. It should have been better. I am completely baffled by the choices they made, like how they structured it, what they cut out of which book, and what the choices they make mean for, doing future things in this universe. If they can, which I don't see this being a hit. Even though I had fun with it, I don't see how this could possibly be a hit. They just kneecapped this from the start, and it's just ridiculous. I don't understand. It seems like a huge betrayal of trust for it to not be the Gunslinger story from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand wanting to bring in the audience surrogate earlier with Jake, and I get that, but this is the Gunslinger saga.
And the kid is basically just a MacGuffin.
And I thought from the beginning
Jake McGuffin.
that it was written in the contract for this movie that it had to start with the words, which are in it, but not until like 20 minutes into it, that, the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Like, that's how it was supposed to start. And for that to not be where it starts, for it to not start with the gunslinger, for him to basically be a supporting character in his own saga is just insane. And I don't know, how that happened. Like, how do you, make this your passion project, supposedly, that you've been wanting to bring to screen forever, that you've been fighting to adapt it for like a decade, or however long Akiva Goldsman has been, threatening to ruin this. And you come up with this. Like, how does this happen? While still being able to... I like that I'm still able to enjoy it. So, I give it 7 out of 10 children that Akiva Goldsman must have sacrificed to the Crimson King to still have a career.
Yeah, seriously. Because this is not his first bland, workman-like movie. And this is... The best way to it's bland and it's workmanlike. There's no sense of passion to this whatsoever. There's no sense of style whatsoever to this thing. It's all feels like a movie from like the late 90s. Hell, it feels like a Sci-Fi Channel pilot with more money from the late 90s. It's not hateful. I mean, I could certainly see if people were super passionate about the books coming into this and hating it because of just how desperately wrong, apparently, it gets like what the series is supposed to be about. But as someone who's got almost no experience with the series, I just, it's a thing I saw a year from now. I'll probably be like, yes, I don't know. There was a thing. There was a reference to 1408. I thought that was cool.
Was there?
Yeah, you missed that?
That was a number to get back to that village.
That was the portal.
This is just kind of forgettable, not trying very hard, but okay, I guess, for a matinee type of movie. I give it, since it's just that middle of the road okay, I give it 5 out of 10 all right. Because that's somebody had to make it.
It's just all right.
That was only 3.
Okay, should I keep doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Wait, 5 out of 10, all right. So that 15?
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez, we're overthinking the
Math is
McConaughey.
all wrong.
The magics.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net And don't forget your towel.